So before getting into the details of Backstage, it's worth noting that it's a technology developed by Spotify, the global music streaming giant. So this platform has changed how software development is managed. So before we delve into the what and how of Backstage, let's first get a deeper perspective of the why of Backstage. So as developers, we know that our work doesn't really involve just writing lines of code, right? So it entails making trips to the cloud provider's console. It involves juggling with various tools. It involves navigating through the intricacies of Kubernetes. And moreover, it also involves managing the security and compliance tools. Not to mention about the hunt for documentation that all of us has done. And rarely, if we find it, it's rarely up to date. Backstage over here plays a very important role into this. So basically, it's an open source project. As we have already talked about, it's developed by Spotify. Backstage helps the developer in working and making our lives easier is, first let's discuss about the problems that we developers face. So due to this, the constant context switching and cognitive overload that we face, Backstage simplifies it, and we don't really need to understand and know every aspect of the infrastructure tooling. So as we talk about the features of Backstage, we have the enhanced visibility, precise collaboration with the strong developer community, and we have the seamless integration as well. So Backstage basically unifies all our infrastructure tooling, services, our testing, documentation into one streamlined environment for software development. So this idea to centralize and simplify end-to-end software development is Backstage. So here, as we can see, this is the UI core component of Backstage, and this is the basic architecture of Backstage independently when not deployed in a company. So as we can see over here, this is the UI core component, which is a very thin UI layer that acts nothing but like a wrapper around the rest of the core plugins of Backstage that are available. Secondly, we have the core plugins which are backed by the services. And lastly, we have the databases of the Backstage. Enables the developer to ship high quality code quickly without being worried about the autonomy of it. We can also create our own plugins on it through the various features available into it, and we can start building any software tooling and testing in Backstage. So we can also start building any microservice using an automated template that is provided within the Backstage. We can start testing it, we can start making documentation, storing it, and mapping it with the respective software that you're using in your own company. So now I'll be giving you a brief overview of Backstage when it's deployed within a company. So here, as we can see, is the basic architecture that I have previously discussed about. So there's the UI and there are the plugins. So coming to the plugins, so there are mainly three forms of plugin architecture that are available to us. So firstly is the standalone plugin, then we have the service back plugin, followed by the third-party back plugins. So we can see here that we have two sorts of plugin over here, which I'm going to explain is, first is the service back plugin. So service back plugin over here is the Lighthouse plugin. So what it does is the service of the Lighthouse, when the requests are sent to the Lighthouse backend over there, so it hosts a copy of the Google's Lighthouse library, and then it stores the result in the PostgreSQL over there in the database. Coming to the third-party back plugin, which is very similar to the service back plugin, the main difference is that it is not within the purview of the organization that the Backstage is deployed into. It is outside there, somewhere over there. Like we have the Circle CI plugin over there. So basically, from the user's browser, the request is sent through an API to the Circle CI with a proxy service that is provided by Backstage itself. So without that, it might be blocked by the cause. Moreover, we have a dedicated URL for every plugin that is available. And currently, as Backstage claims that they have more than 200 plugins available for your work. So we just do slash and the name followed by the name of the plugin to get over there. So now I'll hand over to Ranbir and he'll give a demo about the rest of the plugins. Thank you.
Hi Fox, morning everyone. So let's try to make it a little bit of more interactive. So first I would ask you guys how much of you knows about what is Backstage? And how many of you have used it actually? It's quite a less number. Okay. So yeah, I'll move with the basically the normal components of the Backstage plugin. So Backstage describes it that it works with the few of its core components, which are its software templates, its Backstage search, the tech docs, and software catalogs, and around Kubernetes. So we'll be going through each of its core components one by one. So let's get started with the first one. The first one is software catalog. So there is actually a problem where everyone is facing, like what is currently present in their organization, which repositories are there, where is the source code, what is written in it, and what does it describes or what does it do. So to resolve this, they have brought off something called a software catalog. So the catalog is actually, in their terms, a configuration of their YMLs, which will describe you what that thing will do. So here in the screenshot is a sample catalog. So it is actually equivalent to their GitHub repository or website, and this will tell them that this is actually an entity in their Backstage thing. So this will tell you about what it does, what it is linked to, basically what services it interacts with, and what is its documentation, and even like where it is being deployed or where it is deployed and what is the status of the service. So that is about its software catalog thing. So everything revolves around the catalog process. So you can have restricted access to it. So you can create groups and basically add members to it and give them permissions to get access to your catalog. So suppose there are like different repositories in your organization, and I am a developer, some guy is a reviewer, and another guy is an editor to that. So you can segregate these all kinds of users into different groups and decide and give them basically permissions to view, update or edit, or even review all the code inside the software catalogs. So we move to the next component. So the second component is basically Kubernetes, which will tell you what is the state of that application. Is it in your developer hosting, or is it in your actual production hosting? So that software catalog will tell you about basically your deployments and stuff. So let's assume that you have something deployed in your basically organization in your dev setup, okay, and you want to know what is the status, okay, of that application. Are the pods running, or basically is the application running, is it active, is it crashing, what are the logs on this? So usually what guys you will do, you'll open a platform on your Kubernetes or basically any cloud means cluster, and just view the logs and stuff, right? Imagine how tedious it will be, like seeing one thing in another tab and then moving to the another tab and context switching. So still the Backstage provides you one single place. You can come and view everything you want to view. Like it gets easier. You don't need to manage different passwords, or you do not need to maintain different tabs for that. So in one single platform, as you can see. So this specific screenshot tells me that this is my cluster. I have these many pods running in this, and these many 2 pods are giving me errors, and I have these many replicas and stuff, and this much amount of memory is being consumed, and this much is available. So all these infos, all these insights you'll get in a single place, which is the Kubernetes dashboard. So basically the Kubernetes dashboard they have is also a plugin which they have created. So they come with 2 different plugins. So the backend plugin and the front-end plugin, and they both interact inside the layer of this Backstage. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So another part is the software templates. So I was just remembering about our previous speaker talks regarding like if someone joins an organization and they are creating something, some repositories, and they leave out. So still that owner will be represented by the guy, not your organization. So what will you do in that case, right? So in Backstage what you can do is basically they provide you some predefined templates to resolve these kind of problems, and much more problems similar to these kinds of things. So suppose I'm a developer and I do not have even access to your repository. For example, I don't have admin permissions, I don't have create rights to create a repository in your system. So what my my senior can do is actually share his GitHub token or the organization's GitHub token in Backstage, and he'll say, okay, you have the token, now you can, I'll give you one more access to create a template or create a repository with a template. So he'll just give me share me the permission in my Backstage account. I'll just go and create a repository, and that repository will be created under my organization name and not in my organization name. How easier it is for like everyone to get these processes done. And if you see on the counter-wise, if you try it, so you'll have to go through a list of permissions and approvals to get these kind of tasks done. So if you're doing the same kind of things in Backstage, you'll get the task easily done basically within minutes without any required you have previous permissions or RBAC permissions given in the Backstage. So so in the given component, in the given screenshot, I have two basic templates which are actually templates to create node applications on your GitHub account. It can be a GitHub account, it can be Bitbucket, it can be anything, whatever your template specifies. It's as per use cases. So moving to the next component, tech docs. So basically this is the most useful thing regarding a repository. Usually what we do is we just hop from one repository to another repository, going through the README documentation and stuff. So again it is context switching, or it might be hosted in your GitHub pages, it might be hosted into your Jira, or it might be somewhere else in your wikis and stuff. So what we all guys just do, how many of you are actually writing documentations on your code? Usually it's a tedious task. People try to stay away. So I was actually participating in Tecton's documentation project, and it's quite a big project, and we were actually 4 members at that time handling documentations of all of those stuffs. So people do not tend to write documentations or whatever they do, they just trying to finish it off. But yeah, moving on the documentation part, so this was actually a problem, like people were asking where is the documentation, who wrote it and where it went. So that is actually a problem. So if you are using Backstage, you can in your catalogs itself you can specify the documentation stuff. So it will actually it has again the plugins comes into effect, and it will read out your documentation and build it on the fly and present you into basically tech doc pages. So this is one more like example, a very useful case actually. So people don't have to go from one person to another, slacking each other, give me this documentation. I have teammates of mine who just keep on thinking, hey, where is the documentation for this, where is the documentation for that, and yeah, it gets a headache. So finally when we try to implement Backstage, so those problems became easier. So you actually don't have to even interact with your colleagues to find the documentation. Just if someone asks you, just log into your account and just you see the component or see your catalog and dive into it and look into, you'll find everything over there. From your documentation to your deployments, everything will be visible on that if you have the given permissions. Okay, moving to the next part. This is actually even a good feature, the Backstage search. So suppose you are lazy enough, so you don't want to go to this thing, go to that thing, search and all, browsing through your catalog. You can just simply go and search on that. So I was actually, when I was preparing this thing, I was, wondering if this kind of feature I can, integrate with an AI kind of tool and go on I'll integrate, and again that tool I'll integrate it with my Slack, and I'll just ask questions in my Slack. okay, what is the documentation or what is the solution to this? If I face any problems, I'll instantly get an answer to that. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Cool. Nice thought, actually. Yeah. So that was about the search thing. And now we'll talk about the plugin story. So, and as my colleague told that there are already 200 different types of plugins available in Backstage. So it can be like whatever use case you have, almost you'll find it in Backstage. So for example, your feeds on your GitHub, what is the first thing actually you come when you log into your system, and what is the first thing do you see? Nice. So when you come to office and when you log in onto your system, what is the first thing do you see? Some might say Jira, some might say your pull request, some might say your review requests, right? I believe that is it. Nothing apart from that. So yeah, so that's what. So suppose that you don't have to go to Jira, you have Backstage integrated and everything, you just put your plugin inside that, and in your feeds page you'll get all the things which you want to do or something like that will come into you. So that can be done through the plugins. Another thing is again your pull request, everything that you can see in your plugins. You're running some pipeline stuff, your builds, your test cases. If it is running in your GitHub workflows, your Tecton pipelines, your Google Cloud builds, anywhere, you can have the plugins integrated into your into your dashboards, into your Backstage projects, and you can even link them with your existing projects and see from a single page. You can see that what is going on into your builds and what is happening with your actual things. Okay, I'll just showcase some of the plugins which I tried out while for this demo. So this is a basic, the Kubernetes front-end plugin. So this is you'll find it out in their catalogs and into their plugins pages. So what happens is if you have a project or if you have a microservice, let's take an example of a microservice. So a microservice, you'll create it as an entity and link it with your Kubernetes plugin. And there is actually some configurations which you need to do around to make it work. So both in the backend and the front end. And then based on your Kubernetes application tags, it will fetch out the status of your basically your website or your deployment or your microservices. So this plugin describes me about that. So this will tell me about my deployments, how much memory it is being using, how much replicas I have, and basically all the statuses. So one more thing it can have was the monitoring aspects on it. So I didn't look into it actually. So yeah, that will be also a good addition to this. Okay. This is basically an entity view of, or basically a catalog view of your application on a Backstage. So it will tell you about, take you about to its source code, about the tech docs, its relationship with the other catalogs or other entities, how it is being used, or how if it is using something or it is being pointed to somewhere else or being used in some place else. Okay, so basically on the top which you see the overview, CI/CD, API, dependency, docs, code insights and Kubernetes. These are all plugins which you can integrate into Backstage. So if you have any basically CI/CD integrations, you can bring into that. So these are a general example of a GitHub workflows, which which will tell you about what happened in your application. So you can see the builds, failing, builds, passing. The logs are not shown here. You have to go out of the box to view the log on this. This is again the documentation part. And you can in the same page, in the same context, the documentation is also visible. This is the overview of your project. So this basically tells you what GitHub repository it is, what is the README languages being used, and the licenses part and the contributions, pull requests. So everything, every insights of your GitHub projects will be listed over here. And this is a very basic example of your API definition. So if you have any API definitions of your project, you can get it listed over here. So as I've told previously, the developer doesn't need to move out of the aspects of the Backstage to get its documentation, get its API working. You can come and try it out over here itself in the end. So there are alternative to Backstages as well. So there was one called Clutch. So that is also an open source. It's similar to the Backstage stuff. The another one is Cubia. So this was an example of the AI tool which I was telling you about. And there are many more tools, cloud agnostic tools like your AWS service catalog or stuff. So we'll move to the conclusion part. So why you should use Backstage, or maybe why you should not use Backstage. Sure. So it will actually streamline the development environment and promote collaboration and efficiency of your project. So the hassle of sharing documentation, pointing people to the links of the documentation, all goes out with the with this. So it's a single place to explore about all your documentations and stuff. Also, as I've told, it is a single source of truth. So you don't need to move out of the UI or move out of the place to like duplicacies or multiple redundancies are present. So just in case like your one code is being deployed over here or one code is being deployed over here, or your applications or reference linkages are split across your platform. So if you're using open source libraries, some are they have their documentation deployed someplace else, and you have your deployment someplace else. So all those things can come in one. So this will increase your developer efficiency as well. So instead of looking for documentations, he'll actually find it in a single place without wasting time, and he'll be able to. So whatever that time he's wasting, he'll do something more progressive and more productive in that time. Same with this, you'll be unlocking with your software development efficiency to 100%. So all the time wasted in searching all the documentations is being used in some efficient way. So I think that's all. Any question and answers?
We saw that in Backstage you were doing CI/CD. I hope that are managed by some plugins
yes.
like Argo CD. But I was not sure about how do you manage accesses, because in Argo CD would have their own access management and Backstage would have their own, and how do they integrate and how do they talk to each other?
Usually if you want to visualize something, right, so they'll give you a tag. So for example, you're working on a microservice, right? So only you will have access to that microservice. And since that CI/CD plugin is integrated with some catalog, right? So definitely you'll have access to that catalog as well. So that way you'll be given permissions, or you'll be grouped under that catalog, and only you'll be able to have access to that specific repository.
So my Backstage ID is linked to, so you make teams on Argo CD, and then you manage, so this team has view access, this edit access and all that stuff. So how does this manage to Backstage? So do I create separate teams on Backstage and then link account, something like that?
Yes, so you need to do a grouping of on Backstage itself.
Yeah, so to handle that use case, you can use the IDP provider, and IDP can manage the user mapping and the access control. Yeah, correct. Same like any SSO or SAML based source, it supports.
Usually what I would do is I'll actually take a global token, okay, and anyhow I'm using creating teams in Backstage, right? So only those guys who need to have access will have access. The admin guy can see everything.
I have one more question. So you mentioned that in the conclusion part that it is actually like unified dashboard gives very good productivity. Do you have any metrics compared to your use case? What is the productivity or efficiency that you are seeing before and after?
Actually we do have a metric, so it's not from the Backstage, but it's kind of a plugin we are working on. So we call it Dora metrics. So it gives you like all the metrics of how much time the developer took to complete one ticket and move it to production. So that plugin is also, I don't think so, Jira will give you that kind of plugins, but you have to integrate it on your own. So we have done this kind of setup with our Backstage.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
200 plus microservices. Each services we need to create a service catalog, or how the service catalog things?
Yes, you do need to create a service catalog for all of your microservices. So it will count as an entity, and you can assign that entity to a specific group of people or even individuals.
So my question is, I wanted to know the team size, tech team size for which you have already implemented this portal, and how would you decide that now it is time to implement Backstage at my organization, or how many developers should be there in the tech team to actually, bring in a system like this?
So we are currently 50 members. So we decided to bring it around 1 year back. So we were actually also, when we were growing, we started from 5 members actually. And when our team sizes started growing, and we actually were in the, this kind of problem. Where is the documentation? Who wrote this APIs? And where is this API being used? Or how do I use this APIs? So then the outcome was use some kind of ITP platform, and then we chose Backstage. Since this was all, if you see their documentation or their use cases by Spotify, so they'll tell you like they actually face this problem, and that is how they got this up. So did I answer that correctly? Okay.
Okay, I think that's the end of Q&A then.
Okay.
Thank you for this amazing talk on Backstage. Yeah, I guess more of us will start using it.